As a Salesforce practice lead, part of my job is to help onboard new consultants. When I'm working with senior people, there's usually no issues. But junior people, you kind of show them the ropes a little bit. When we're doing projects that are on site at a client, there's one set of tips for that. But when we're working remotely, I have another set of tips that I usually give them. So this video is going to cover the 5 tips that I go over when a person is going to be working remotely as a Salesforce admin. So tip number 1, try to keep a regular schedule. So just because you're working at home, it doesn't mean like you're always working. You shouldn't expect to be like doing work at 10 o'clock at night. You want to try to work the same hours that you would typically work as if you were in the office. So if 9 to 5 with an hour lunch, so maybe 9 to 6. Or what's even better is just work the same schedule that your coworkers work. Take lunches when they take lunch. That way, when clients are scheduling meetings, they never have to worry like, oh, is EJ working during this block of time? No, it's just normal. It's no big deal. So that's the first tip. Tip number 2 is make sure that you are over communicating. So when you're in the office, it's pretty obvious that people are working because you can just like walk by, you can see them busy doing work. But when a person's remote, I don't know, if work isn't getting done quickly, people sometimes wonder like, why are they even working on it? So like if hours go by and they don't hear from you, then maybe that's a red flag that, hey, maybe they're not doing anything. Because usually when people are like working on something, there'll usually be some kind of questions or like, hey, I got this work in and you want to show it. So silence is usually a bad thing. Make sure you like say good morning, like first thing in the morning, people know like, hey, okay, you're working. If you're going to be like away from the desk for a few minutes, then just let them know you'll be right back. And let them know when you're gone for the night too. So that way they're, again, just not wondering. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3. This one is about your work environment. So always try to have a dedicated place to work. Maybe that's like an office in your house. Maybe it's, I use a section in my basement where when I'm in that spot, everybody knows that I'm working and I shouldn't be bothered. When things have been kind of chaotic at my house, I like to get away and maybe go to the library and work there for a day. Or I've even just worked from the car at a decent hotspot location. That's worked very well, no interruptions, and it's very clear that now I'm in work mode. And then it's easy to just keep track of that time, right? So you know, okay, these are the 8 hours that I've gotten in, and it doesn't really like overlap with personal time in any way. So there's never any question like, well, are they really getting their money's worth, right? So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4 is try to make your remote environment as productive as your office environment. Like for example, have a good chair, have multiple monitors. If you're like using a library or something like that, bring an external monitor with you. I'm not talking about like a big, like plunk it on the desk and then plug into the power thing, but I mean, they sell like USB external monitors that don't need any additional power. Those work great. There's also an app called iDisplay that you can install on your phone and turn that into a second monitor. I've used that quite often. So basically, just don't get yourself in a situation where you feel like you're not getting as much done as you could in the office, so that you're just very comfortable and productive. So that is tip number 4. Tip number 5. This one's probably pretty obvious. Use some sort of screen sharing software. So you need to find something that will replace that just face-to-face interaction that you have. There's a car going by. Have some type of like zoom.us is a good one. I use appear.in. And I'll put links to all these software things in the description. But basically, you just don't want to get yourself in a situation where you're like, oh, I wish someone could help me, or I wish I could help someone else, but I just can't see their screen. These tools are free to use, and they make it just as good as being there, if not better. Because like when you're sitting behind someone, you kind of have to like look over their shoulder. I don't know, I can't see very well, so I have to get kind of close to the screen. If I'm just sitting back behind them, I can't really see what they're doing. And another thing with this is a lot of times when I do video sharing with people, I try to do everything I can to make sure I'm always showing my video camera. So I don't know, I see a lot of people not doing this, and it kind of confuses me. But you know, when you're working in the office face to face with someone, you're not usually like putting up a barrier or showing like a black screen. When you're working remotely, you should try to have that same personal connection. Show your webcam. Everyone knows you're working at home. It shouldn't be a secret, or shouldn't be trying to hide anything. And there's a lot of like facial expressions that are communicated that you just don't get if you're just doing like the audio connection. I know, especially with me, I think people can tell right away when I don't get what they're talking about, or maybe I do get it and I'm just kind of laughing. And it's hard to when you just hear silence on a phone, you kind of wonder like, what are they thinking? So that's the last tip. Just try to be very personal and show your webcam, and try to make it feel as if you're there. So that's it. Those are the tips that I give people when starting out remote. Working remotely is not for everyone. Some people just have a hard time separating the personal from the work. I know I struggled with it for a lot of years. I think I found myself working day and night, and that can cause a lot of personal issues. I still don't have like a really good setup at home. As mentioned, I got that section in my basement. It's pretty cold and down there, and it doesn't get me very motivated. I've been trying to work outside as much as I can while the weather's nice. I'm not really in work time right now. This is kind of personal time, but I like to mix it up. I don't like to just have the same thing every time, so I do like to work in different locations. I've tried working from library. Like I mentioned, the library works well. I found like Starbucks doesn't work well because of all the noise. I kind of like more of a quiet environment, but these are the things that are working well for me. I hope they work well for you too. If you have other ideas, put them in the comments, and have fun.